Hey, what's going on, everybody? So, Joe here got first episode of the podcast. Really excited to have one of my best friends here, Artem. And if you want to just introduce yourself, we can get right into the interview.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Thanks you for having me. Yeah, my name is Artem. I've been working as a software engineer for 6 years now. My main focus currently is backend development using Golang, Kubernetes, and cloud technologies. And also recently I started working with Databricks and Python.
Okay, very nice. So, backend. That's pretty advanced stuff, honestly. Like I'm not that advanced with backend. So me as a data person, do you think that I could get the chops, the knowledge to eventually be more skilled in kind of the domain that you're working in, which honestly seems like it's more advanced from the technical side.
No, I don't think so. Like, yeah, you can move or transition to the backend whenever you want.
Hmm.
I think those both area, like data engineering and backend, are really close to each other. I think just on the backend you have more business logic and custom logic rather than
Hmm.
just data transformation.
Okay. And so how did you initially get started as a backend engineer, I guess?
Yeah, it was a long way. So before I got my first job, I just was studying for 3 years. Yeah, so basically what I did in the final class of my school, I started learning everything what I saw basically. I was just curious about software engineering and I started learning like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and build some websites, then learn like C Sharp and build some simple games like a snake games. And but this road didn't like move me anywhere. Basically, I was trying different things, but I had to find some specific path. So I reached out to my friends that already working as a software engineers, and they told me that they are working with the Java and this language in demand. So basically, I started focusing on this. And at some point of time, I got stuck. So I wanted to implement something and wasn't able to do so. And like courses online and some YouTube videos didn't help me. So I got completely stuck. And what I decided to do is to go to some boot camp. So
Hmm.
I paid for the boot camp and found there like-minded people, and I had a teacher that always responded to all of my questions, basically. So he was able to unblock me, and by the end of this boot camp, they said that they will find a job for us, and they actually tried to do so, but it didn't work out.
Oh.
So I tried to find a job myself and send my application to probably like 20 different companies, but nobody even replied to it because I didn't have any like production experience with it. So therefore, yeah, I reached out to the company which is called EPAM. It's like big outsourcing company worldwide, and they had some training after which you basically can get a job at this company. So I tried to join this training, and they said that I'm too young, and I have
Really?
to, yeah, and I have to go like in 2 years or something because I was just a second year student at that point of time.
Hmm. Okay.
So what I did is I like study another half of year and tried again to go there. They again said to me that I'm not able to join the company now, even the training because I'm too young. But I insisted that I'm capable of it. I already have all of the knowledge and skills. So they gave me the test task that I successfully completed, and then I was invited to the interview, which I as well passed successfully because they were asking me some simple questions about like variables, for loops, etc. But I was already working with frameworks like Spring and building some web applications. Yeah,
Hmm.
so and after those training, I was invited to another training, and then eventually I've got a job. Yeah, that was the my roadmap, basically.
Okay, wow. Very nice. So there's a lot of really interesting topics that you mentioned there. So I kind of want to dive a little bit deeper into some of that stuff. One specifically is like you got rejected twice, you said. So I guess what kind of advice would you give to people that aren't in tech now? Maybe they're in something else. Maybe they're working at McDonald's and they want to potentially get into tech because they realize that, in 5 years, the robot is going to take their burger flipping job anyway. So they have to do something that, you know, is more has a future potential, which obviously, well, some people say that tech is also going to lose all our jobs too. But assuming that we think that it has potential, what advice would you give them, especially after getting rejected twice?
Yeah, I would say you should be like patient and try again and again, like don't give up. But also just look for some similar opportunities. So, for instance, what I did, I was like primarily focused on the Java, but on the side I was looking for the jobs at the web developer. So it's like HTML, PHP. So I think on the very beginning, it's important to just get at least some experience. You can
Mm,
get even any role into software engineering. You can get role as a QA, as a manual QA. I think it's the most easiest one to
hmm
enter the software engineering world, and then later you can transition to something else. So yeah, I would say that like just look for all opportunities out there to get any role in tech, and then you can move internal transition. That would be the simplest way.
I actually agree with that. I pretty much say the same thing, that basically you simply need to get your foot in the door. And then from there, it makes it so much easier. So really any role that's in tech is perfectly fine. Um,
Exactly.
and another thing that you mentioned about your story of getting started that I completely disagree with, so we're gonna fight on this maybe, is that
Okay.
you took a boot camp. And so like from my perspective, one, okay, I did 1 semester of college, but basically I didn't go to college. Two, I didn't do a boot camp. I did all on like YouTube basically. So like I graduated from YouTube University to get into what I'm doing. So from the perspective of someone that is successful, but you went to a boot camp, but the boot camp didn't give you a job, would you recommend people to do boot camps or not so much? Because I say no. I say it's a waste of money. But
I would say it can be no, but you gotta find some place where your question is gonna be respond. Now probably it's easier when you have ChatGPT and
right.
much more different communities. But at that time, I was just really I just had a Stack Overflow when I was asking some questions, but eventually nobody responded to them. And yeah, probably for one question, I was waiting for about a week to just get a response. So for me, it was quite slow. And
Mhm.
also, I didn't have like-minded people like me who
Mhm.
also interested in software engineering and would like to get a job there or would like to start their career. So if you have both of these like-minded people where you know how to find them and you know place where you can get answers to your questions and get unblocked, then yeah, probably you can move on to some other platforms and do other
Mhm.
approaches. Yeah, whatever works for you.
Okay, fair enough. So it's kind of funny that you mentioned Stack Overflow because like I remember using that a lot, but honestly, I can't remember the last time I even went on that website. Like AI, it's just way better. So, but
For
you didn't
sure.
use Reddit either. You didn't post Reddit like in r/technology, like, hey guys, why is my why is my code wrong? You didn't do that?
No, actually, it's a good point. No, I didn't use Reddit at all at that
Ah,
point,
okay.
and still don't. But yeah, probably I should start doing so.
Yeah, probably. No, it's all
That's
good.
a good solution.
Maybe, I don't know. I'm not big on it either. Um, okay. You mentioned though that you had friends um, that got you into it, but then um, the recent question that I just asked you, you said you didn't have people in the industry. So
Yeah,
that,
that's right. So, but
what
but
did
it
you mean?
wasn't kind of like a close friend, right?
Ah,
So
okay.
I wasn't able to reach out to him like 10 times per day with my random questions. It's
Hmm.
more like a acquaintance. So we share like
Gotcha.
came once, ask like set of questions that I had, and that's it.
Okay. And then I guess for back-end engineering, like how would you compare that to other career paths? Like, how did you pick that? How would you recommend people choose a career path in the modern day now that there is AI? How long ago did you start again? I don't think I. Faster.
I think it's like start learning just software engineering. It's about 9, 10 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
Wow.
working as a software engineer for 6 years now.
Okay. Nice. Okay, so yeah, given that, like, what would you say in the modern day how people should approach looking at a new career path? Should they look
Um,
at back-end data, something totally different?
Yeah, I would say like try different things, whatever like you prefer at that moment. So for instance, some of the people would like to build video games already, start with this, try to build some games. Then I don't know, you can get bored and would like to do some visual stuff like at front end or desktop. So switch to that. So basically what I did, I started my career as a Golang developer, then I switched to the front end. Then after 3 months, I decided that it's not for me. It's a little bit boring. Yeah, and I switched to full stack development. Uh, yeah, that was much more interesting, but still there was a front end. I decided to move on completely from this part and move to the back end.
Okay.
So yeah, I think like if you are young and if you have time to experiment and yeah, try different options out there. I think now we have a lot of opportunities in terms of the jobs and so on.
Okay. Speaking of opportunities, what would someone be able to expect, like, monetarily, you think? Maybe first year, second year.
Like you mean in terms of the salaries?
Yeah.
Uh, Oh, I would say that not focus on this. Like
Oh, okay.
as you get started, like as an intern or as a junior developer, I would more focus on the experience that you would get because
Mm.
most likely the salary is gonna be the most nice part of your job. Yeah, so in the very beginning, it's very hard to get paid well and yeah, to just
Mm.
get your dream job. But
Okay.
eventually, you will get there after some time.
Okay. So you think it's really a long play. So only people that want to be doing it for a long time should essentially get into it because the initial couple years are not that much money, I guess.
For
I guess
sure.
that's with
I would
anything.
say just the beginning of the software engineering career is like kind of the worst because you gotta
Mm.
put as much as effort as you can, put a lot of motivation and all, and probably like as I, for instance, for the first 3 years, I received nothing in the back. So
Mm.
yeah, and only then I got a job on my first salary. So you gotta be really patient about it.
You received nothing on the back. Do I even want to ask how much you were getting paid your first 3 years? Do you even want
Uh,
to say?
No, my first 3 years, just I was learning software
Oh,
engineering and
learning,
trying to get a
studying.
job. Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
studying.
you were trying to get a job for 3 years. Wow.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Oh man. Okay.
And
All right, fair enough. Okay. And I guess another interesting question that I have is like how your approach changed over time from when you first started to now that you're much more experienced working on larger projects that are end to end. How have some of your methodologies or approaches changed over time? Anything that
Mhm,
comes to
yeah.
mind or
I think I became more cautious when I implementing something because I know that if I will make mistake, it will affect a lot of users, which I won't do that. So, and the next thing is I started thinking more as well about the business side of the implementation. So how to make it more efficient, that like my solution will bring like more money or save more money on the long run. Also, I started focusing not on the individual tasks, but rather on the team goals because they're kind of more important. And if we will like always achieving team goals, the project will grow and we'll get more revenue and everybody's gonna happy. So yeah.
okay. Any big mistakes that you can remember that you made throughout your career? Um, something you would avoid today?
Yeah, 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 for sure. So I think it's important to know how your project works, like horizontally, like many aspects of your project. So for instance, if you're doing data engineering, you might be interested as well how your backend work, how your frontend work, etc. Because you might come up with some advices that will be useful for those teams. So for instance, I had such situation. I've been working in oil and gas project, and we were developing solution to reduce methane emission. And I like was responsible I was one of the person who was responsible for implementing this actual feature, and I was implementing backend and front end, and then was data science guy that was implementing the algorithm itself. So, and
Hmm.
we eventually implemented it, and it worked well. And after 1 year, this guy left the project, and I was kind of responsible for the data science part also in this Python project. And what I realized is that we actually don't use any machine learning, but we pay a lot of money for the platform, which is called DataIQ. So, and for the whole year, we paid for this platform that we don't need actually. We could
Hmm.
save a lot of money on it. So, eventually, we moved this service to Kubernetes cluster, wrapped into container, and wrapped with the fast API, and that's it. Because so my main mistake here was that I wasn't curious enough about what's happening underneath the hood of what this guy, data science guy, implementing. I was just interested in the API that he provides to me. So, but if would what I would know about it, I would say him in the very beginning, man, we don't need this platform. We can save a lot of money, and let's use like containerization and Kubernetes instead.
Okay, so you basically like took what the team was using with this data platform, I guess, and
Yeah.
then you just essentially built it yourself and deployed it within the company, if I understand correctly.
Yeah, but because we didn't use actually any capabilities of the platform. So the platform is very expensive. It's for data scientists and for machine learning
Okay.
operations mostly. But we didn't have any machine learning.
Mm.
It was a simple algorithm that was run in Python and using open source library. So therefore, it was convenient to just move it as a service to Kubernetes cluster.
Mm. Okay. And do you remember how much it cost them, like per month or per year?
Uh, I don't remember now the number, but I think it's thousands of dollars.
Oh, okay. Well, that's pretty good, money saving thing then. That's
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
good.
for sure.
Okay. But what about like any harsher mistakes that you can think of that's like embarrassing, that like you broke something or anything like that, or does
Yeah,
nothing come to mind?
that's happened like a lot of times. Like that for instance, I don't know, I didn't think about some edge case, and yeah, it affected some users, so therefore you need to be more I don't have some like case on top of my head which happened, but
Okay.
just like abstract when I missed some part in the requirements, and it affected multiple users. So after that I became more cautious, and I implemented not just, for instance, unit tests, but I know the importance of the integration test, and then later on the
Mm.
manual tests to make it more efficient. And also the metrics and logs should be in place and all. Yeah.
Okay, wow. So you really up the testing so that you don't have like more issues. That's
Yeah, exactly.
okay.
Because you would like to sleep like
You don't want to
safely at
get
night.
waken up at 1 a.m.
Exactly, by some alarm.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. I guess how does that when the issue arises with the team, you notice, the team notices, whoever, how does it go down? Because like for someone that's getting into this industry, maybe they're kind of scared to mess something up. But like in your experience, when something is messed up, how does that like go down, I guess, if you get what I mean, in the team?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
are
So
they like
basically,
they're like beating you or no,
no, no.
probably not.
I think it depends on the team also. So
Okay.
I have a friend of mine that like streams always his screen when he's working, like 24, like all of his working day is streamed to his manager monitoring sometimes, and come back to him if he doesn't like that he does nothing or something like this.
Oh,
So in
wow.
these companies, probably you're gonna be in problem. But usually
That
people
sounds
try.
terrible.
Yeah. People trying to focus mostly on how to avoid such problem again. Basically, already what was the root
Hmm.
cause, and they doing the post-mortem where they describe step by step when the issue was found, what was the root cause, how we can mitigate it, how we can avoid it in the future, and create this document, and this document available for the whole team so that we can learn on the mistakes that we made. Uh, yeah, that's
Okay, so it's like a surgical approach. Like we go in, we find the problem, we take it out and see what happened, and we don't really care that it was you that caused the problem. We just want to make sure it's fixed, and that's all.
Yeah, exactly. And
Okay.
especially if you're like on junior role,
Right.
probably less likely that you're gonna make this mistake because the software life cycle is quite long and it prevents you from such issues, especially on the big projects. So you create your merge request. There should be at least two approvals usually from the experienced team members. So they jump in and put a lot of comments on your merge request. And
Remove this request. Take this back.
yeah, something like this, but in a yeah convenient way.
Right. Okay.
And yeah. So then the pipeline as well ensures that the service didn't increase the number of the unit test coverage and integration tests. So, for instance, in the pipeline, you can set so the application should have at least 80% coverage of unit test. If it goes down, for instance, you forgot to write the test, you won't be able to merge it even system won't allow
Oh.
you to do so. So yeah, and
Hmm.
those kind of things like unit integration tests, quality checks, static analysis tools in the pipeline help you to like minimize the percentage of the fucked ups that you can do on the
Right.
production.
Fair enough. So you said that before you can submit the request, it has to meet like a minimum standard of 80% of the unit tests. So
Yeah,
you
like
can't really even mess it up that bad.
yeah, it and depends on the project also, and
Okay, fair enough.
yeah, because this like number it's vary from project to project. So I was working on the project that we had 70% as a minimum. I had
Mhm.
projects that we didn't have this at all, and I had projects that we had about 60%. So it depends on the team agreements, I would say. But yeah.
Okay. And then another thing you mentioned is that earlier you said that you were working on a project in the oil and gas industry. So I gotta say, no, I'm kidding. Like I gotta say, what do you think about green energy? No, um, really, what I want to ask is, um, from a standpoint of domain expertise. This is a question that I think about a lot, actually, especially now that I'm getting more experienced from the perspective of specializing in a certain domain. What is your opinion as far as software and data expertise in the general domain versus in the niched specified domain? For example, someone that specifies in software development for oil and gas exclusively versus someone that specializes in software development in any kind of company.
Yeah, so I would say the also the your background will help you and the things that you love will help you. So for instance, if you have a background at the uh, like energy engineer and you also a software engineer, so I think it will be your strongest point then to work in oil and gas domain, right? And the same, for instance, if you prefer like game development, it just you're really passionate about it. I think it will be your strength, so we will put more effort in this domain. Yeah, but in general, it's usually yeah much more um, much greater than if you have some domain in which you are actually a specialist, not a part of your main like specialization like backend or front-end engineer. So if you're just a front-end engineer, it's great, but if you're a front-end engineer and expert in some domains, it's even better. But it's hard to pick the domain at all. Like it's my opinion. Uh, for instance, yeah, as I said, you should have personal preference or some additional background that help you to be an expert in this domain.
Okay, makes sense. So, um, fair enough. And can I ask where you plan to transition to from here? If you have any future plans? I don't know. Is that okay to ask?
Yeah. I think now I'm interested more also not only about software aspect but about the business aspect also. So I think I would be interested in the future transition to the role of the software architect or the tech lead, something like this that will combine together like software engineering, uh, leadership, and the business skills together, and also maybe project or no, not project, but product management to be more familiar with the product life cycle, to know about the like user experience, what customers actually like or
Mm.
don't like, and how to make a product that everybody loves and use.
Okay, so like switching away from just hard technical skills and wanting to kind of learn more skills from a business perspective, like a product manager or an architect. I guess that's still technical, but it sounds like you're going to be managing people who are building stuff essentially on the project.
Yeah, maybe, and I would also have some room for my technical skills. So, for instance, when I can make my own research and suggest some idea to the team, and where we can discuss and maybe implement it, something like this.
Okay. All right. And then switching to Go specifically. So I've only made like one Hello World script with it basically, personally. I was just testing it out, looking at some different coding languages because I was hitting some kind of limitations. I can't remember what it was exactly, but I think my API calls were just really, really slow with Python. So I don't know how much experience you have with data pipelines. I know you have some, but what do you
Yeah,
think from your perspective, like the performance of Go in modern data pipelines? I'm not talking about some like boomer tech from 10 years ago. They have to refactor. I mean, like something, if you're going to start from scratch and you're going to say, hey, we can go with Python, hey, we can go with Go, what are the pros and cons?
think for data pipelines, unfortunately, Go is not mature enough. Uh,
Mm,
I think it's used not at many platforms right now, like or not many platforms support Go. I think it's still Python is the primary language for data pipelines. Uh, but yeah, I think in general, Go should fit in this regard. Just need some more time, I guess.
okay. So basically like a lot of the third party services are Python only. Like if you're
Yeah, yeah,
thinking about like
that,
Airflow, for example, like I think that's Python only.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And for
Yeah.
instance, as well, like platforms like Databricks, and
Mhm.
there's the some other like PyTorch for I don't know AI and so on. They use
Right.
only like Python mainly right now.
Well, what about like Golang and uh SQL Spark or Spark SQL, whatever it's called?
Yeah, as well, they have a library for Go. Like Spark has library for Go, but it's still not mature enough. It's just a minor version.
Uh
They didn't make a major release even, so it's
okay,
not
gotcha.
production ready. You can play with it, try if it works, but yeah, it's
Hmm.
not there yet.
So basically, if you're building a data pipeline that doesn't need external third-party tools, that's just straight code, you're getting the data from one place and moving it somewhere else, then Go would be potentially fine. But if you
Yeah,
have to
yeah,
use
it'll be
some
great fit.
Python package, then it just use Python at that point.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Yeah, that's insightful. Um, okay. And I guess what's on your mind right now? Like anything, any interesting ideas that you've been thinking about recently? There's a lot of crazy news going on with like the new GPT model and stuff like that. Or maybe something related to backend development. Anything on your mind that has been really interesting you lately?
Yeah, I think in general those AI new AI solutions like ChatGPT and all are amazing for implementing POCs and MVPs. So, for instance, you would like to like you came up with some idea, right? And you don't want to invest just a week to implement it and see if it actually works, or sometimes even more. So you can use ChatGPT and just write a single prompt, and you write your solution pretty much in any language on like kind of POC Hello World level, and you can test it out if it actually works, and you can use it and then make it more production ready. And
Hmm.
yeah.
Okay.
So I think
Speaking
for POC MVP, it's amazing to have it.
Okay, fair enough. I watched a video, I think it was like a YouTube short, and it was one of these business guys, like a startup guy, and he was saying that you should make your MVP in Google Sheets and, think about, what was it? Maybe some Google Maps or something. It was like, you can just put addresses in Google Sheets and send that to your users. So is that kind of what you're talking about when you're saying build an MVP with ChatGPT, just make like something that can be put in a spreadsheet, or are you talking about something different?
That's the same. Yeah, to just mitigate the risks, to see if
Mm,
the major points in which you are not 100% sure will actually work in terms of like technology integration, and yeah, then you can take this part, make it more mature, and ship it to the production.
okay. And then speaking about production, um, Kubernetes. So it scares me. I've played with Docker and usually I'm failing. Usually it's me wasting 10 hours and then I can't Docker compose. Then I just copy paste manually and I'm like, okay, I think that was a good effort. The blue whale has beaten me again. And I'm just gonna copy paste. So speaking of Kubernetes, which to be honest with you, like I said, it scares me. Um, do you think it's even worth for me to learn? From the perspective of a person in data that's potentially working on data pipelines or analytics projects,
Mhm.
do you think it's even worth to learn at that point? Or is it mainly
Uh,
just for software engineers that need to have this kind of distribution across, I guess, the world, right? For different people to make different requests in good time. Not exactly sure, but something like that.
Got your question. Yeah, that's really depends. I think it
Mm,
depends on the like product on which you are working and the like team itself. So basically, sometimes like data engineers don't even have access to the Kubernetes cluster. They just
mm,
focus on the like data source from they should ingest the data and then they doing their own thing. They don't need to think about the cluster itself.
hmm
And usually. I think what I saw at least, you're moving to some external platforms that outside of the Kubernetes to work on the data, like Databricks or Snowflake or something. They are not deployed to the Kubernetes cluster. They are somewhere outside external platforms. So, but I think if you have to manage the cluster or you are responsible as well on the workload on the cluster, I think it depends on the size of the project then. If you work on some MVPs, POCs, or some projects that have less than 1,000 users or like and can have some downtime, then it's fine to have just a private virtual server without any Kubernetes. Yeah, just keep it simple. But if you have a large SaaS project and you need to have zero downtime, you need to be able to scale horizontally and vertically on demand. So, for instance, when you have Black Friday, you have to increase
mm.
twice or something like this. Then, yeah, for sure, Kubernetes is the way to go.
Okay, gotcha. And do you think it's simple to transition from a private virtual server to Kubernetes? Like, if I was to create a startup and start it with a PVS, would it be a simple transition to do that from that to Kubernetes, or would I have to rebuild everything from scratch?
No, I think it's relatively simple. It as well
Okay.
depends on how you build everything. If you had in the beginning everything in the Docker container, like running on the Docker Compose, for instance, or just in the Docker, then it would be much easier because you don't need to
hmm
rewrite the same Docker files. And regarding the transition, I would do it in this way. So, for instance, you implemented the project, you've got 1,000 customers and you see that your project actually performing fine, but if you will get 2000 it probably like will go down out of the resources. Yeah, so at that point I would start learning like Kubernetes already and look on some platforms that will help me to make
Mm.
it easier, like GCP or AWS that mostly provide to you already some prepared Kubernetes cluster and you don't need to set up everything from scratch. And
Oh, okay.
yeah, so essentially, I would start from this, and when you are ready to make the transition, I would make a kind of canary release with a load balancer. So, for instance, 90% of the load goes to your PVC and only 10% to the Kubernetes cluster. And you see on the logs and metrics in Kubernetes if everything is fine, and then you gradually increase the percentage of the release. So it can be 50-50s and 80-20, and then you 100% move to Kubernetes cluster. I would make transition in this way.
Okay. That's great advice, actually. I'll keep that in mind. Speaking of cloud platforms, though, why do you hate Azure?
No, actually, I don't really hate Azure, but I think now it's pretty much the same as the other providers like AWS
Yeah.
and Google Cloud. But In the very beginning, I think like 5 years ago, I was working in the beginning with GCP, and then I transitioned to Azure, and I was like, Azure looks like MVP for GCP. Yeah, it's like it seems like they just copied and pasted everything that they had in the GCP and yeah, just
Yeah.
made it work. And then later they gradually improved the UI and make it more reliable. And it actually now feels quite the same. And I would look more on the performance and what they actually provide and the pricing. If Azure is cheaper and it works as good as GCP or AWS and provides all of the same capabilities, I would go with Azure.
Okay. Yeah. Bill Gates was just really upset that you didn't mention it, that you only mentioned AWS and GCP. He's like, hold up. Um, cool. I actually like nowadays I actually prefer GCP personally. I don't know if you have a preference, but what do you think about when you're building things in the cloud? What like typical strategies or what is like a typical setup that you're implementing?
hmm Yeah, so basically, like in GCP, like they have this geeky like Google Kubernetes engine, I guess it's called, and
Yeah, yeah, I've seen that.
there you need to have a setup of logs and some to see and as well like monitoring, like metrics and so on. So for this, usually like you use some external tools like Datadog and whatever like Sentry, and for charts and graphs you use Grafana to
So
visualize.
you don't just use the native logging in the cloud platform at
You
all?
you can use, but it's quite limited. I think it's in Geeky, it's quite fine, but if you would use something like how this platform called Splunk, I think
Mm-hmm.
it's much more mature and you can make more complex queries or open search.
Okay. So you wouldn't recommend like because I've set up some logging syncs, for example, and it's sent that data to BigQuery and then to a dashboard. But you're saying that there's better approaches using some other third-party service? I've
Yeah,
never
but
looked into it.
I would say on the very beginning, the
Mm.
default settings will work.
Okay.
Just later, when you need more mature or complex queries, then yeah, you need to use some external parties for this.
Okay. And then how do you like scale that architecture over time when you go from 1,000 to 10,000, 100,000 users?
Yeah, so also you gotta have the microservice architecture on your
Mm.
like application itself so that you can scale your services horizontally. And yeah, so for instance, if you implement some high risk feature, you can use canary release, as I said, and just increase
Mm.
gradually, release
Mm.
just 10%, see how it behaves, does it provide new errors, metrics fine and all, and then you increase to 100%. And
Mm.
for the rest of the deployments, I would prefer blue-green one. Uh, so basically, what is the difference between the default rolling update and blue-green is that rolling update kills some deployment and immediately starts a new one, and it does one by one in the same way. But the problem is that here you can have some slight downtime for a couple of seconds, but with the blue-green set of your services, that old one running, and then it starts a new set of services. And when all of the new services are ready, it just switch completely to the new set of services, and there's no downtime.
Hmm. Okay. I don't know. I don't think I fully understood that, but I think maybe someone in the audience did, and they can comment about
You,
that.
you can ask some follow-up questions.
ChatGPT.
No, no, no. You can ask follow-up questions. I can try to explain more precisely.
I guess, yeah, simply put, like, what's the best way to scale, I guess?
I think that depends. If your
Ah,
system, if your system kind of behaves well on the level of the container, so I think the cheapest way to grow horizontally, because the price will just as well grow linearly. But if you will grow vertically, it will go exponentially. So
okay.
Because for more profound hardware, you gotta pay more money, right? So
Okay,
you
right.
gotta find some kind of balance that you have both, best of both worlds.
Okay. So is it kind of like just get the like least amount of CPUs that you would need for one server and then just duplicate that more or less?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Fair enough. Okay, makes sense. And then do you have any experience with scaling data pipelines or ETL pipelines by chance?
Uh, no, not yet.
No? Oh, okay. All good. Was just wondering. Okay. But you've worked with Databricks. So what do you think about Databricks when it comes to this space, cloud architecture and scaling, versus, I guess, making these sorts of data pipeline projects with versus without Databricks? I mean, you hear it everywhere. So, what's all the big buzz around it? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it just simplifies life for engineers because you can do everything that does Databricks by yourself, create all of these pipelines like in Go or any other language and all, and like save it to different places. But like you will have to maintain it later also. But Databricks
Hmm.
provides you all of this solution end to end out of the box, so you don't need to waste time on implementing it actually. So you can just simply start implementing your pipelines and like infrastructure is already there to like basically sh draw charts to save data to different places, to do this transformation, to do testing and all. So yeah, I think it's just more convenient to do ETL now with the Databricks rather than create custom pipelines inside of the Kubernetes cluster.
Okay. So if I was going to make a data pipeline, um, and I'm calling a third party API and I'm, going to bring that data into a database, would you say go custom, go Databricks or something else?
Um, I would say if you just want to test if it works, not in the long run, then you can do quickly like your own thing. But if you want to make it reliable and have logs, metrics, and some things that you have out of the box from Databricks, then yeah, for sure you should go with this platform instead.
Oh, okay. And what about pricing? Is it like really expensive? Because it uses distributed compute, right? So,
I think mostly you pay for the compute for the machines. Rather than for the platform itself. But yeah, I'm not really expert in
not
this
sure. Oh,
area.
okay. Okay. All good. All good. All right. Okay. Well, we can move on then. So, business question, since you want to learn more about the business side of things. If you were going to start a business, or maybe you already have one, you know, what would it be?
I would like to build some my own product that will just simplifies somebody lives, and yeah, that I would use myself.
Okay.
That would be a dream to implement
Okay.
my own product.
Okay. Nice. Cool dream. And I guess for the audience that is thinking about starting freelancing, maybe you have an opinion about that. What would your approach be to starting freelancing if you were going to do that?
Yeah, I would say firstly it would be nice to get a job in some outsourcing company and
Hmm.
learn how this actually like works freelancing on the kitchen, put it this way. And
In the kitchen, what do you mean?
like basically you will know the internals, how they
Ah,
find the clients, how they find the developers for it, how to manage teams and things like that. And
mhm.
you will just be more profound. It will be easier to you when you will finally move to the freelance project like Upwork or something.
Okay. So just get a job first, basically.
Yeah,
If
get a job first, get experience there, but not in the product company, more in the outsourcing, I would say, because I
hmm.
think freelancing and outsourcing is quite similar. Because what this company actually do, they find a person, they find a customer, and they join them together. So this is actually what you want to do, right? Because unfortunately, you can't scale. You like can just like increase your rate, but if you will build a team it will grow more like exponentially.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. And then what about if you're hiring people? Because I've been thinking constantly, every day I'm thinking about hiring people because I have a lot of work, um, and it never slows down. It only slows down because I tell people I have too much work, and they're like, okay, I guess I'll just work with somebody else. So I know that you've have some experience with that. So what do you think about hiring people, running a team?
Yeah, I would say firstly you need to make sure that you need somebody. Yeah, as you say that you
Mm,
like have too much task that yeah, for sure. But also you need to like think in a way that this person should bring you at least as much money that you will spend to him. For instance, I don't know if you need to buy some equipment to him or just to pay salary and things like that. If it's not just that you take some percentage from the what the customer will bring. Yeah, so in this regard, you just need to make sure that the employee will make at least as much as you will pay him.
mm,
And the next part is I would suggest to hire like people gradually also, like for instance start from the one person, then once he worked for you for 2 3 years 2 3 months, you've got some maturity, you can hire another one, and then you don't need to do the mentoring, this guy can do mentoring and knowledge sharing, so
mm.
then you can expand your team gradually. I
What
think
do you
that
think
would be my
about like,
approach.
do you think it's common for people to like join the team, work for a couple months, and then just leave the team?
Yeah, if they don't like the team, yeah,
Oh,
then
okay.
for sure.
Okay,
He,
gotcha.
they won't do this if they would love everything, right?
Hmm. Okay, fair enough. And do you think you hire people for like one specific task? Because I have a few different things, right, that I could hire out. So do you think it would be better to hire for one specific task, like they do they work with this one technology and that's it, or hire someone that's more of like a generalist that can do multiple different things and they kind of just take work off my plate, sort of thing, in general?
Yeah, I think it depends as like if your tasks vary, then yeah, for sure the general kind of T-shaped person will be better in this regard because you
Hmm.
have different tasks, right? You have tasks related to Python, to API integration, to data pipelines, to Excel spreadsheet and all. So if this person will be kind of with the similar skill set as you and can unfold you, then yeah, I think that's the way to go. But
Okay.
if you would like to build a team that actually, for instance, build some custom like data pipelines, and you know that this person should do this exact part, this, and you create kind of like an engine where they together perform much better than like separately.
Okay, so like the idea is hire one person for task A, one person for task B in like the specific project, so have them like compartmentalized, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, but it's much more complex.
Ah, okay. Yeah. Yeah, it is. In my experience, it's pretty difficult to do that. Do you think I should try it again? I don't know.
Yeah, I think you should. I think you have
Yeah?
great skills. Yeah, like
You
with
think I should try to hire again?
yeah, with the general purpose, I would say employees.
The general purpose?
Yeah, that will
Hmm.
help you to get unfold.
Okay. I don't know if I'm ready for that, but I'll think about it. Um, where do you see like the future of back-end development, the future of data engineering in the next 5, 10 years? I know predictions are, you know, impossible, but do you have any ideas?
Yeah, I think most of the parts gonna be the same. So you still have to know the basics. You have to know the core, like big O notation, all of these complex time complexities, data structures. This part won't change. Um, What's gonna change, I think, will be more work related to the integration with AI. So, for instance, as create some API service that integrated with the ChatGPT and it does this, something like this. Uh,
Hmm.
Also, I think still reliability and scalability, those kind of gonna be key skills. So where you actually will be hired to implement some system that have to serve for million users, something like this. Because this skill is hard to replace by AI, in my opinion.
Yeah, for now, yeah. I mean, nah, it's not possible now. Definitely no, because there's a lot of random issues that could come up, I would imagine, when you have
Yeah,
that many
exactly.
users. Yeah. Okay. And then I guess speaking of AI, what do you see specifically with AI, like in the modern day, even next couple of years? Are they taking all our jobs? Like, or how do you feel about AI in the work that you currently do? Are you using it? Um, are you using it to help with coding? Are you using it to help with creativity questions? Are you not using it at all?
Got it, got it. Yeah, I think you mostly should think about uh, AI as the assistant, but not like the person who will guide us itself. So, for instance, think about it as about Iron Man and Gyrus, his assistant that you always like reach out to, find
Hmm.
this, find that, and things like that. So, I think we should
Hmm.
think in this way. So then AI won't replace us because it will be just a person kind of that supports us all the time. And
Hmm.
what I do now, I mainly use ChatGPT in my day-to-day work. And I use it as a Stack Overflow. So when I have to research something, so with the first source where I go, if I can't find it in ChatGPT, then I go to the internet further research myself.
Hmm.
And also, it's amazing for POC and MVPs, as I said. So when you need to implement something quickly, for instance, as for my pet project, I wanted to implement like flashcards functionality that will remind you about some learning about learning words time to time. So, for instance, you said that you understood the word, then it will remind you again in 10 days. But if you said that you didn't, then it will remind you immediately. So, kind of algorithm like that. And I found that actually this algorithm already exists. You don't need to implement by yourself. And I quickly ask ChatGPT to create for me an application that actually will do that on just CLI level without any UI, just as a proof of concept that this algorithm actually works and I don't need to implement it myself. And
Hmm.
it did it without any problems. I tested, it works amazing. So yeah, it saved me a lot of time on just research and POC. So then now I can make it production ready.
Okay, fair enough. Um, that's pretty interesting. Do you want to talk more about that project, or I can keep talking about AI because I have some more AI questions.
If you have some questions about the project, you can ask it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, what have you learned? Like, what's the number one thing that you've learned working on this project? Um,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the first
So,
question that comes to mind.
yeah, firstly, I learned about this CA certificates and how to actually make your website or application online and work by HTTPS. And also,
Is that like a SSL or the CA
yeah, yeah,
certificate's
SSL
totally different?
certificates. Yeah, yeah.
Ah, it's the
Uh,
same as a CA certificate? I've never heard of that.
like you need to have both basically
Ah, okay,
to make
gotcha.
it work. Yeah,
Okay.
and next, that you actually need to have privacy policy in terms of use, things about which I didn't think probably never, because this role of the other
Why do we
guys in
need
the
that?
team. Like, yeah, actually to be compliant with the GDPR and some
Ah,
Californian
hmm.
privacy policies, you gotta have it. Otherwise, you can get fined like $1,000 per user that will visit your application.
Okay. Hopefully no
So.
one visits my website then. Wait, does it count for all websites or just applications?
Uh,
If you create a user, right? Or what?
I think, yeah, if you create a user and you have their personal data,
Oh,
then yeah,
okay. Okay, cool. Then I don't need to worry about worry about that for now. I'm totally compliant.
yeah, yeah. So this, then I had a chance as well to build end-to-end JWT authentication myself, so
Hmm.
which is also was
And what
good.
is that?
Um, it's like authentication that called JWT or JWT, like JSON Web Tokens, token-based
Okay.
authentication. And
And why
yeah.
would you use that over like OAuth or like Google OAuth, right?
Yeah, so basically they provide you the same, but you just integrate with the platform. But what I did instead, I built it myself.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm not dependent on the auth, and yeah, I shouldn't pay them for
Oh, it costs money.
yeah, for the users and so on. Yeah, it costs money.
How much do you know how much it costs to have like a like Google OAuth login?
Uh,
Or
I
maybe
think
not.
on the very beginning it's cheap, but then
Uh-huh.
you build it to this, and you will pay quite a lot.
Okay. Gotcha. All right, fair enough. But back to AI. So I remember talking to you a while ago, and you said when I guess maybe it was a long time ago, but I remember specifically you were saying, no, I don't use ChatGPT for any coding related stuff, but it sounds like you've changed your opinion. Okay. Just wanted to
Yeah,
make
I
sure I
think the
understood
model
that.
just became more mature.
It is definitely better. That is true. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah,
Okay.
because but still, even now, sometimes it's better to go straight to documentation and you will save more time. But we
hmm
are too lazy to read the whole stuff in the documentation. You get would like to get just answer in few lines and proceed further,
I
but
mean,
it's not
honestly,
always accurate.
I'll be completely honest. A lot of times I just copy paste the entire documentation page into ChatGPT and just ask the question and tell it to give me the answer.
Yeah,
So,
it's a good approach. I
yeah.
think it's a good approach. It's better than just blindly write to ChatGPT without anything else.
Yeah, fair enough. And then speaking of AI taking jobs, you mentioned that you don't think it's going to take jobs. I don't want to misquote you.
I think if you will stay, the same, stick to tech stack with which you're currently working, then yeah, for sure, it might change, take your job later. But if you adapt and learn what like technologies are getting popular in the market and move in this direction, then yeah, for sure,
Mm.
I think
Okay.
everything gonna be fine.
Okay, fair enough. I don't know if you watched this interview or this podcast of Y Combinator, but
Yeah, you sent
basically,
me. Mhm.
yeah, and that was totally mind-blowing. And I'm not into the hype stuff, but the thing that stuck out to me was that this is basically the biggest VC fund for startups in the US, right? Y Combinator. And so basically, they're talking about how in the past they invested money into just normal SaaS companies, and now they're investing into AI SaaS companies. And the one thing that stuck out to me about that was that they were saying how these companies became successful was that the company pitched the product to the CEO, and essentially it would make it so that you wouldn't need this entire team, whether the few examples was you wouldn't need a QA team anymore because we have AI doing it completely for you now, or you wouldn't need a collections team anymore with there was a loan example, some like bank or loan company where AI now with voice is taking care of all of that. And so hearing that again, not nothing about hype, but like it's not that it's taking jobs away necessarily, but it's that companies are being made without those jobs existing primarily, right? And then eventually, obviously, companies that have teams will just dump teams and just get and adopt the AI. So, I don't know. Just yeah, I thought.
I think like in this regard, if you will use in the future AI agent for that replaces QAs, and you just will probably have less QAs in the team. There will be just one person that will manage this UI, more like a manager or something of this
Hmm.
AI agent rather than QA itself, and it just will make his life simpler. It's already happening with the AWS, for instance. There's a bunch of services that AWS provides, and they actually replaces like hundreds and thousands of the network engineers or network
Mm.
administrators. So because all of those things provided out of the box by AWS, and you just need to get the certification and know which buttons to click and how it works to get the results. But you actually physically don't need to like take wires and things like that. It happening underneath the hood by AWS.
That's kind of fair to say because like the uh I guess integration or whatever from on-premises to cloud, that has been going on for many years now, and it's very slow, a slow transition. And you could say that network engineers that go in person into these closets where it's super dusty and they're messing with wires, that they're losing their jobs. But potentially maybe they just transition to be like a cloud architect or something like that.
Yeah,
And I guess you could
exactly.
say the same thing for AI, like software engineer would become an AI engineer, whatever it's called. So I
Yeah.
guess that's kind of true. Okay. And another question, I think maybe the last question, um, but it's one that I think you'll really like. It's how do you stay motivated and how do you avoid burnout working long hours, high pressure jobs?
Yeah, I think first it's thanks to my wife. She doesn't allow me to work 24/7. So yeah, I spend time with her as well. Luckily, I have some friends, and yeah, hit the gym twice a week, and try to like learn new things as well outside of my company and my project. So build some pet projects that will make me even more engaged and fascinated about tech. Uh, like so basically learn things outside of the job. And the last one probably just as well uh, have some time to read like books that not related to the tech, maybe fiction or not fiction, but something physical, not electronic books, just to stay calm and yeah, get refreshed.
Okay, so if you like theoretically, if you were single though, you would be working 24/7. Is that what you used to do when you were single?
Yeah, yeah, this is what I did. This is what I did. I work 24/7, and every Friday I was drinking quite a lot alcohol and
Oh,
recovering
okay.
the whole weekend.
Oh no. Did you work weekends too, or did you work like on Fridays or no?
But yeah, I worked on weekends also,
Ah, okay.
even though I wasn't asked, but I still came to office and was yeah researching some
Hmm.
things related to the project or doing some my like pet projects, yeah, things like that.
So like, did you ever experience burnout during that time when you were just working so much?
Luckily not. Yeah, but
Ah,
I
okay.
think I was quite close because I was a full-time student. So I was studied
Mm.
from the 8 a.m. to like 2 p.m. Although I supposed to study until 5 p.m. I just left classes earlier, and I went to my job and from like 2:30 to like 10 p.m. or even later, I was just in the office and I was sleeping about 5 hours per
Ooh,
day
okay, that's
during that
bad.
time. Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
But it paid off, so then
It
it's
paid
good.
off.
Yeah,
Okay, so maybe I like to think about it like life has seasons, just like how the earth has seasons. There's a season of like I guess hustling, for lack of a better term, and then a season for not as much hustling and more chill. So, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Agree here.
Nice. I guess anything else you want to talk about? Anything you want to say to the audience or any questions you want to ask me before we wrap this up?
Uh, no, I think nothing comes to my mind, but yeah, I would just want to say thank you, Joe, for yeah preparing those questions. That was interesting to talk to you.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. Thanks so much, and see you around.
Yeah, see you around.
All right.